Alright, so good morning from the Swift Mira Loma terminal, my home terminal. I've been here posted up a couple days, and they talk about the big seasonal blitz with the holidays and all the local runs that are needed to tie up some loose ends, and they don't have too much for me at this point. So to kind of backtrack to where we left off, where was I at? I was up in Washington heading down to Fullerton. First thing was they said it was a live load. I get there, it was not a live load, it was a pickup. So that at least saved me a bit of time, but the thing was I didn't have a trailer number for my pickup. The mistake I made was your BOL was actually posted in one of those little plastic packs on the front of the trailer. So I should have had the insight to look for that number, but I was just so used to, looking for that trailer number. I didn't even think to look at the bill of lading number that was right there. So I ended up taking my half-hour break there and calling my driver leader, and he got a hold of the CSR for that company, and we figured it all out. But for not knowing my trailer probably saved me a little bit of a hassle, because I was hooked to my trailer. I found the spot to leave it. I ended up unhooking and pulling. I thought I'd just pull forward a little bit and figure out from there. And this is the only time it's ever happened. I don't know if it's because I was a little tired from the night before, or I didn't have my motions going, but I ended up forgetting to unhook my cables, my electrical lines, and my air lines. And I kind of heard a little bit of a noise, and then I get out and they are totally extended like a freaking, like a guitar string. So fortunately, the electrical cable, the noise I heard was the electrical line pulling out of my truck. The air lines were a little longer, but I was able to back it up, and I did hyperextend the spring, one of the springs that holds it, but it was all good and fine. I just kind of re-looped the spring, and there's no damage or anything like that. But I got thrown off my out of my motions there, and that's the sort of stuff that happened. So again, coming up from Washington, one observation is you see a lot of timber haulers, which makes sense. The trucks hauling the fresh cut timber and all that stuff. And then I'm actually making my way down the 5. I thought I was near Portland last time in Longview, but it was actually about 40 miles. But over that river was Oregon, but it was another 40-45 miles to Portland. So that was one thing I noticed. One thing I did see though was a car going the wrong way on the freeway. He was about 100 yards in front of me and ended up kind of, doing a 3-point turn to turn around, and I gave him a good honk just for like, dude, I don't know, at least no one got hurt, nothing like that, but a guy going the wrong way on the freeway is never ideal. Another thing that happened was I was cruising down the 5. I see a weigh station. It says closed. The second I see it, literally half a second after, it says open. So they must have felt the truck that was in front of me over the weigh-in motions and wanted that guy to come in, because he rolled through. I didn't really see his scale numbers, but they pulled him off. They wanted to inspect him, and there I was rolling at about 33,500 on my drives and 33,700 on my trailer tandems, and the guy was kind of waving me through, and I was just like, all right. I mean, I'm pretty heavy here, but that guy obviously was doing something wrong. So I get towards Grants Pass, which I've always been kind of weary of that pass. It wasn't that bad at all. The fact that they showed that Swift video through Oregon where the truck falls off the cliff, that's what was kind of always in the back of my mind. But before I even made it, it was nighttime, it was getting dark, and so I stopped at the Seven Feathers Casino Resort. There's a rest area there and a lot of parking, so I ended up sleeping there for the night. I was supposed to get up at 3 a.m. and believe it or not, I slept until 7. I kind of just wanted to take on that route through with some daylight. That was A. B, I was just kind of tired, getting caught up on sleep, and of course, if you're tired, it's always more worth it to just rest, regardless of when any freight is due. Turns out the load, which was due at 7 a.m., so I thought I was going to be late going through the Grapevine, going through LA traffic, but it was actually due from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m., so I had a good window on it. So the stress of like going to bed and sleeping in and all that stuff just melted away, and I was good to go. So anyway, so now at this point I'm in California. I'm hauling 45,000 pounds of paper. The California roads are pretty bad. comparable to a lot of other states, and I ended up going over a bridge, and the bumps on the bridge, I kind of felt something, I heard something, I look in my rear view, I thought I saw a piece of rubber fly, and I've seen those situations before where trucks in front of me blow a tire and they don't even really know it. So I kind of even went, put my finger out the window to the trucker behind me, like, did something just happen here? And either way, I ended up pulling over, checking all my tires. All my tires were good, but all of a sudden my secondary air tank's leaking. So here's what I thought happened. The spot that I pulled over at, it was kind of like the shoulder, a little bit of dirt, and I happened to pull over in front of it, kind of stopping fairly quick. And then it just so happens there's a little bit of a dip and a curb that started. So I thought I hit that dip. I thought the curb hit one of my tanks, my secondary tank, and that's why it was leaking. Turns out that was not the case. I finally get to the Love's 2 hours later. I was just keeping an eye on the tank. It kept refilling with the governor cut in and all that stuff, but I knew I wanted to at least get the 2 hours, get my full 11 for the day driving, and then kind of assess it from there. So at the Love's, I even took an old pizza box and laid it flat, and I was checking out my secondary tank, and then I filled my tanks again and realized the noise was coming from back there, and I look, and there it was. My suspension airbag was totally lopsided and kind of collapsed, and that's pretty much what blew out from all the weight and the California rough roads. So I had to get a TA roadside to come out. He bypassed the line so the tank wouldn't leak at least. And then I kind of said, hey, to Swift, should I repower this? And they're like, well, you're in kind of the middle of California, Central Valley. We don't really have anyone to repower that load. So I'm like, all right, well, I'll just take it through the Grapevine and hope for the best. And they're like, yeah, once you get to LA, we can repower it, give it to another truck. And it's like, well, if I already make it through the hard part of the Grapevine, why would I even, give up the rest of the miles? It was a live unload, so it would have been nice to have someone take it over, but I ended up taking it all the way to the shipper, which was fine. Driving through LA, driving through the Grapevine and through LA around Pasadena, I called in 2 obstructions. The Grapevine looked like a piece of a bumper in the middle of the second to the right lane, and then in Pasadena was some tether ties for like a flatbed, and then a big chunk of metal. So I called in CHP on one, and the second one they said call 911. But another little bit of a scare right before I called that second call in. I didn't even plan to call in, but then I had time because I was on the side of the road. Was some girl blew a tire a couple cars in front of me. The truck in front of me stopped pretty abruptly. I'm hauling 80,000 pounds. I didn't necessarily have. I mean, I had a good following distance, but it was coming down to it, and I luckily was able to merge into the exit only right lane. There was a truck there. I ended up having to honk to him. Not a truck, a pickup truck. I honked to him. He sped up. I was able to get over. I pulled into the kind of the V before the exit, and there was that girl with the flat tire. And I ended up telling her, like, hey, you should back up your car off the side of the road in between this V for a little more room on both sides. She was Hispanic. She had no idea what I was saying. She's like, yeah, it's the tire. I'm like, yeah, I know that, but you almost caused a wreck. You should at least move your car over. And by the time I got onto the freeway, looked at my rear view, she didn't move. She didn't understand what I was saying. But either way, I finally get a hold of, Mira Loma. They do have the part in stock. So I plan on heading over there from the shipper, or from the customer in Fullerton. That was a bit of a headache. They told me to dock at one place. I docked there for about an hour and a half, and then they said, oh, with your paper, you gotta park on the other side and unload on the other side. So I wasted quite a bit of time there. No worries. At this point, I'm just glad to be back in Southern California. I finally get to the Swift Mira Loma. I get the truck in the row E where they're going to fix it overnight. I run down to Lake Forest where my buddy lives, have some dinner. I crash there on his couch. I come back to Swift. Turns out my truck is in the shop at that point. They say it'll be ready in about an hour. I go into one of the driver lounge areas with these benches, and I end up sleeping on a bench like that wide for about 3 hours. Come out, see my truck's good. At that point, I'm waiting in my truck for a load offer. I wait 7 hours from about 9 to 4. They haven't offered me anything. And at that point, I've reset my PTA for the next day today. I ran down to Del Mar, California in San Diego. It was my stepsister's birthday dinner. I was able to hang out with my family. And then I shot back up here, and I kind of been waiting all day for another load. Turns out they don't have a load till tomorrow, the 23rd, at about 2:30. So I'm saying screw it. I'm going to empty out my truck just in case they want to take it, and I'm going to go home for the holidays. and I will be back probably early on the 26th to see what's going on.